The anti-lockdown protest in Cork stayed peaceful, despite concerns of violence. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to talk about the anti-lockdown protest that took place in Cork yesterday. Now, this was an interesting one, I will say, because there were quite a lot of calls for it to be called off after the anti-lockdown protest in Dublin last week had some physical altercations with Gardaí. Now before I get into it, please like and share this video to give it a boost. Yesterday, Saturday the 6th of March, a protest took place here in Cork City to protest the lockdown measures implemented by the Irish government. Now these lockdown measures are the strictest in Europe and the 6th strictest in the world. The protest proceeded despite repeated calls for it to be called off after some violence erupted from the anti-lockdown protest in Dublin last weekend. The Gardaí were out in force in preparation for what they expected to be quite a rowdy protest. Apparently, according to what Gardaí have reported, there were 200 of them present. Now, according to Gardaí, 6 arrests were made, although, I'm going to be honest, they all seem to be a bit of a stretch, to be fair. And I will say this, there are several interesting points that I'm going to get into in this video that I think it's important to raise. So first off, I want to talk about the arrests that were made. According to Gardaí, they arrested 6 people related to the protest. Related is a very specific word. Turns out 4 of them weren't even in Cork City. 4 of them were in Kerry, Kildare and in the county area of Cork. These were people supposedly going to the protest but were stopped by the checkpoints to ensure people didn't go outside the 5-kilometre perimeter, which these people obviously were. One of the arrests took place before the protest even began, and turns out it was actually a street performer. Now, one of the reasons why they were suspicious of him was because he had a can of flammable liquid. It turns out that that was part of his act. Apparently part of his act in his street performance is to juggle like a baton that's kind of on fire at both ends. And so that's what the liquid was for, was to fuel the flames on the baton. Apparently he resisted arrest, although from the reports I've read, didn't seem to be much. Now when it came to the 6th arrest, we actually don't know much about it, other than that it was a man and he was arrested for public order offence, but they didn't give any more detail than that. Now, the Irish media have been constantly claiming that the protests, both in Cork and the one that took place up in Dublin last weekend, were organised by far-right groups. Now, I don't know the full details of the organisers of the Dublin anti-lockdown protest. However, the main organiser for the protest that took place here in Cork was a group called the People's Convention, led by former Cork County Councillor Diarmuid Ó Cadla. Probably mispronouncing his last name. Interestingly enough, the People's Convention is actually a far left group, not far right, and Diarmuid himself describes himself as a Marxist. So I think the media got that very wrong, but I think that was kind of intentional. I don't think they knew anything about it. They just were just trying to smear it as, oh, these were just crazy far-righters. They didn't have a clue. Of course, it's the news media, they never do. Let's talk about the two main points that were being made at this protest. Now, there were quite a few points altogether, but I think these were the two main ones. First off, the necessity of lockdown. My thoughts is that I do think lockdown is necessary in some capacity. However, the way it's implemented at the moment here in Ireland is way too restrictive. And it doesn't seem to be supported by any of the numbers. Because there are areas of the country that actually have no issue with the virus at all, and yet they're still fully locked down like the rest of the country. It's just been a blanket lockdown, when it should have been a lot more specific on areas. I think the other point is that it's going to be too late to repair the damage after the lockdown. And this is a point that I actually understand, and I do kind of agree with, I will be honest. The attitudes, it seems, of a lot of the world's governments, as well as the media, is that we have to deal with COVID right now. It's the only thing we should focus on, and we'll deal with any of the consequences of the restrictions, the lockdown, like the serious damage to mental health that's occurring, especially in young people. We'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that afterwards. The problem is, I think a lot of the damage, like the damage to mental health, caused by these restrictions will be irreversible when we come out of them. So by the time we do come out of them and they try to deal with that damage, it's already there and they won't be able to fix it. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether they actually see that the damage has been a lot worse than the protective measures. Now, I will say this with regard to this protest. I'm actually very happy that it stayed peaceful. I think it would have taken away from the message if it was violent. And I think that's what a lot of people on the left kind of don't understand about protest. If it's violent, people will just ignore the message, even if it's a good one. So what do you guys think? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with my latest videos. I do think the government and the media kind of overplayed their hands a bit with this when they were talking about this protest. They made it sound as if it was going to be full of nothing but radicals, as if it would be like the Black Lives Matter riots that took place a few months ago. But instead it was perfectly peaceful, like it should be. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.